I'm being silly. Okay. Welcome, everyone. You're watching In the Crosshairs. I'm your host, Raquel Okyay, and my special guest today is Anthony Mele. Anthony Mele and I go way back. We go way back, long time friends. Anthony, I'm so glad that you're on today. What I want you to do is go into your history, your background with firearms. I know that you're founder and owner of AMI Global Security. You are a gun dealer. You have an FFL, a federally firearm license to sell firearms and ammunition both nationally and internationally. And I know that is your business, and that has been your business for a long time. So my listeners, and I think the general public, we have a lot of questions for you. So welcome aboard.
Thank you, Raquel. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Good. So I think you're the first, you might be the first person on my show to talk about dealing guns or firearms on a national or international level. So what I want to know is, I want you to let the viewers know that, you know, how difficult has it been for you? So it's not like you wake up one day and you're like, oh, I want to, you know, sell firearms. Let me just go sell firearms and open up a shop and do it. How difficult has it been to get to the point where you are now?
Well, Raquel, you're right. It takes some years to develop the expertise and the drive to want to get into this business. I'm a United States Army veteran, so most of my training and background is in counter-terrorism and Army intelligence. And I was an infantryman, so that was my first introduction to firearms and combat arms. Then during the course of my career, I became an international bodyguard for international businessmen who were in the international arms trade. So that exposed me to the networking and the industry. And so everyone that he met, I met. And so during the course of time, by osmosis, I learned the business of how to acquire weapons, negotiate with governments and suppliers, create the network of transportation and transport by air and ship, and deliver firearms on time to the customer. And so then at such time, I obtained all of my licenses, my federal firearms license from the ATF, and my defense trade license from the Department of State, the State Department, the Department of the Bureau of Political and Military Affairs, and then I became a defense contractor, basically selling foreign weapons to the United States, to elements of the United States government, and then some to different countries like the Ukraine. One of the last deals that I did was providing UAVs or drones and 50 caliber rifles to the government of Ukraine.
That's fantastic. I just think that's so exciting. And dangerous. It's kind of dangerous, which sort of makes it exciting. But thank you so much for your service, Tony. And, you know, we all appreciate it, and your expertise in this area. You know, since we're in such an anti-firearm climate right now, it's one of the reasons why I decided to focus on Second Amendment for this show, In the Crosshairs. Okay. And what I want to know, what I'm trying to get out to the public is that us firearm owners, we're not the bad guy. We're not the criminals. We're not the ones shooting up schools, right? But for some reason, they're blaming us, Tony. They're blaming us. They're saying, ooh, you are in the NRA. You must be somebody bad. You know, and you and I both know that's not true. So I'm trying to put everybody's face, you know, to the real NRA, you know, which is you and I. And we just simply support the Second Amendment. We're not criminals, and we shouldn't be deemed as such either. So what I want to know is, with all of this, yeah, thank you. You can go get mine. With all this negative attention in the press, mostly in the media, against firearm owners, including yourself and myself, how has that affected your business? And what have you done to deflect it, basically, because, you know, if it's having an effect on your business and your sales of firearms, what are you doing to stop it?
Well, which you're right. There is a political agenda afoot to demonize and vilify gun owners as bad people or dangerous people. If you recall, we're here in New York, and New York is very hostile to gun owners, legal gun owners. And if you recall, a few years back, it was the local newspaper, LoHUD, that published the names and addresses of every single legal registered gun owner in the state, underneath the premise that their neighbors should know if there's a gun next door to them. But at the same time, what they did was notify every criminal gang member and every burglar and everyone who wants to steal guns where to go shopping at, where to surveil a place, wait to see if nobody's home to break in and steal the thing, you know, steal the entire safe or whatever it is. They knew where it was. This was just unconscionable. So the answer for all gun owners is that we have to unite and create political muscle. So irrespective of your political party affiliation, if there's any political or elected official who is anti-Second Amendment, if they're anti-Second Amendment, they're anti-Bill of Rights, but because you cannot pick it out like a buffet. You can't say, oh, well, I like this one and I like that one. I'll have this without that, you know, hold the onions. So that's not the case. So anyone who is an elected official who takes an oath to uphold the Constitution and at the same time wants to make laws to undermine it, okay, are undermining the principles that on the foundation of the Bill of Rights. So they got to go. So all gun owners should turn around and unite and remove any such politician, irrespective of their district. So, for instance, you might live in the state of Florida, and yeah, you have a pro gun congressman or federal.
Sometimes.
Right, but let's say, you know, as an example, you know,
better than New York.
Yeah, so someone who's pro in that particular thing, so you say, hey, like we're okay down here. But if they're running in federal office, it affects the entire country. So you should turn around and know what's going on in districts like we are here in New York in the 17th district where they're anti, and then help us remove those candidates and help us support candidates who are. So even if, so cross district lines, cross state lines, if we must. That's one key way, political muscle. We gotta have political muscle, power. Right. The other thing is that the key awareness. And in history, no government ever disarmed their own population to free them or to protect them. So if you look on every government throughout history who's ever disarmed their own population, all right, and mostly in leftist regimes, as we know, has always been to enslave their own people. And so what we're finding here in the United States is that they're being sliced away incrementally. I call it the deli effect. You know, when you go to the deli and they put the salami on the slicer, right? And it's like this, and they keep slicing it little by little by little by little by little till it's gone. That's what they're doing here. Oh no, we're going to protect you. Common sense gun laws. We're going to do this, going to do that. Listen, we've got enough gun control. There's not an issue about gun control. Guns. I'm a federal firearms licensee. No one's ever walked into this shop and say, "Hey, Mr. Melé, what do you have good for robbing banks, and what do you have good for dealing with the MS-13 rivals and Bloods and Crips?" All right. So criminals do not obey or follow any gun laws. So if they follow the gun law or any kind of law, we wouldn't need prisons, right? So if prisons stop crime, we wouldn't have crime. And if judges and lawyers and police stop crime, we wouldn't have crime, right? Right. And if laws stop crime, we wouldn't have crime, right? So the only thing that a reasonable person can do to defend themselves is to be self-empowered and have home defense. And we have to start, you know, reconditioning the population to do so, because what they're doing is they're taking the younger generation and purging them of the ideas of self-reliance, to be dependent and reliant on the government for everything, even your own self-protection. And so this is the kind of things we have to reverse, Raquel.
I do. I think so too. And I know that, there are a number of people out there saying the same thing, Tony, like you are. And that's just, all we have to do is look at history. And we know that despotic governments move to disarm their population. They're not protecting them, right? They just want to disarm them to take control. And that is history. So we could just look back and we could say, we don't want to make the same mistakes. But we still can't seem to get across to the naysayers. That the guns aren't the problem. Do we have a lot of issues? There's a lot of crime and there's shootings that we want to work towards or prevent from happening? Yes, we absolutely do. But there are ways to have discussions about it without demonizing the firearm, which is only a tool, as you know. So what would you say? What would you say to the gun banner whose answer to that is, we don't want confiscation? You ever notice they always say that? One of the first things out of their mouths are, we don't want to take your guns. We don't want to take your guns. But really, when you get down to the bottom of it, their goal is to take the guns. How do we tell the American public that, and why it's important to defend it?
Well, they're lying. I mean, the easy answer is just as a lie, and
Right.
and so we're not falling for that. We don't have to succumb to intent. Intent of the law and outcome of the law are always two separate things. Okay, so here in New York, Governor Cuomo, in the dead of night, passed something that was called the acronym of the SAFE Act. So everyone who was a legal gun owner in the state of New York, the next morning, they passed it at 3 a.m. in the morning. When they woke up the next morning at dawn, every legal gun owner, according to that particular law, Raquel, were criminals, because everyone had a firearm that had a feature, okay, that they deemed illegal or made illegal overnight. So overnight, all the legal people who did everything correctly, everything in accordance with the law and obeyance, myself included, law enforcement included, every policeman, every state trooper, every legal person was illegal the next morning.
I remember that because it was so quickly rushed and they didn't even look at it. They didn't even know what they were doing, that they, in fact, made police officers, law enforcement across the state, criminals.
Everyone.
The state. They ended up changing that, right? They had to reword it because that was just absolutely ridiculous. But that just goes to show you how quickly and hastefully they put this together, and it was really just...
Well, it exposed their true intent.
Yeah, their true intent, right. Confiscation. It exposed
their true intent, right, which was confiscation, criminalization. That was their true intent. They rushed it through in their zeal, but they exposed themselves, right?
Right.
They showed what their true intentions were. Now they said, oh, no, let's get it back because it didn't make sense. So it goes to show what they're really about. And so Cuomo got to go. And any such person like that has to go. So that's why.
Who do you like? Do you like anybody in New York right now?
No. They're not serious about it. You're not serious about it. But that's a political discussion, and that's another hat I wear. But in this particular hat,
we could talk about it. We do politics.
Yeah. But the test, the litmus test, the business test is that everyone in the country who's a legal gun owner, all right, should make sure that they're amply stocked up on ammo, that they're amply stocked up with a home defense piece like this DSP 12, excuse me. Because look how evil that looks. Okay.
Nice.
Now, speaking of the SAFE Act, see how this thing was done, was created, was the manufacturers, engineers got together in response to the SAFE Act. And so what they did was they designed a shotgun that got around and addressed every feature that the SAFE Act said would be illegal. Okay. So they turned around and addressed the ammo limitation by attaching the magazine to the rifle, to the shotgun. So now it has 2 attached magazines that hold 7 rounds each. So therefore now it has a capacity of 14 rounds with 2 in the chamber. So it's a 16-round double barrel shotgun with 1 rack and bang, bang, 2 shots. So one of those now makes one person a squad. So yeah, the SAFE Act gave birth to ingenuity and innovation to a point that is now perfectly legal according to the SAFE Act, and defeated what it would try to deny the legal gun owner, which was the ability to have enough firepower to defend himself for a sustained period.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
It's that kind of thing.
Is it selling?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do people from outside of New York, are they buying it as well?
Yes, yes. It's really spreading in popularity because it's what it is. Look, what the SAFE Act said was that if a gun says bang, it's illegal. Right? If it says bang, it's illegal. It's scary. It's evil. Okay? And so that's exactly what it is. When they turn around and describe a weapon, an inanimate object using a verb, right? Assault weapon. Assault is a verb.
Right.
Okay? It's an inanimate object. Okay? It's an inanimate object. It can do nothing. It can't assault anybody. It can't do a thing. So this is the kind of nonsense that they're shoving down the throats of the American people. And the thing is, we're creating a society of passive, compliant people instead of assertive, independent-minded, free-thinking men and women. And this I oppose with every fiber of my body.
Yeah, it seems like people are really falling for it. And it really is, you know, kind of garbage, because then when you get down to the specifics, just like you, because of the SAFE Act, it'd be a whole new different firearm, you know, for sale that people can buy. And none of these restrictions are actually prevent crime. And that's the other thing that we know. So we know that gun-free zones don't prevent crime. So we've had, you know, report after report, including the UN has done a report on it. Gun-free zones don't save lives. We know, you know, we already have the data. We have the data on this information going back many years. And what we see is that people or communities that are armed are safer. Communities that have the stronger, more strictest gun control laws, they're the most dangerous. So we have all the, in my opinion, Tony, we have all the facts on our side. And I don't get it. Like, public, hello. I'm not a criminal.
It's not even necessary, but it just goes to show that the fallacy of the thinking. And they're trying to impose the fallacy of their thinking. Look, I tell the other people who have this kind of opinion on that political spectrum, says, look, there are no laws in the Constitution forcing you to have a firearm, forcing you to have a religion, forcing you to lock your doors at night. Okay, that is your free choice. If you choose to keep your doors open at night, if you choose not to have any religion, if you choose not to exercise any of the Bill of Rights, you have the choice not to exercise it. But you cannot impose your will on someone else to comply with your way of thinking. So if you don't want to have a firearm, if you're terrified of an inanimate object, well, by all means. But you cannot stop me from having one. And you cannot turn around and say that no one needs more than 10 rounds to kill a deer, Mr. Cuomo. Mr. Cuomo, no deer ever tried to turn around and put an entire people in ovens and gas chambers and in boxcars. Right. Okay? So don't worry about it. And if deers had rifles, it wouldn't be called hunting.
It'd be called combat.
Okay? So you see, the fallacy, I'm just saying, these people have completely lost their minds, Raquel. I can't even go down to that level of lunacy.
That's how I feel sometimes. But I do make some progress on people, like on a one-on-one basis. So if they're kind of like people not really paying attention to politics, and they just have these views that they've held on to for a long time, particularly people from New York. So like my old friends from my old neighborhood, you know, they're kind of like, oh, you know, I don't do guns, you know, like it's just it's not something that we talk about, gun rights, you know, on the streets of New York City. But when I have conversations with them concerning just the idea of being able to defend yourself in whatever means you want. So it can be your choice, not to defend yourself through conversation, through dealing with conflict. But if you, us, you know, sort of as free people, right, God-given freedoms, free people, we ought to be able to defend ourselves with whatever instrument we want to. So if I have a burglar coming into my home, my castle, my home is my castle, I can take this chair, or I can take this ceramic cup, or I could take anything heavy and dangerous, like I have a little brick right there on the side of my dresser. I could slam it right in their head, and I could kill them. I'll kill them if I want to, defending my life and my home. I can do that. That is my right, and I want to be able to do them. But guess what? I don't want to pick up a brick. I want to use the firearm that I have, because that's easier. Easier. It's not easy.
Well,
You know what I mean?
the thing is that
I defend myself any way I want.
yeah, what you're describing is the law of self-preservation, and the law of self-preservation is overriding. So we don't need permission to defend our life. We don't need permission from the government. We don't need to have that right granted to us. That's a God-given right that's we're born with and guaranteed to have. So remember, the Constitution is not gives us rights. The Constitution preserves our rights, and it constrains and restrains the government from taking our rights. That's what an inalienable right is. It means it cannot be invaded, cannot be alienated, cannot be taken away. The government cannot take away what they cannot give you. Those are God-given rights, all right, given to us by God, given to us by the Creator, given us to by nature, all right? So therefore, if they didn't give it to us, they can't take it from us. So that's the premise of that, and that's why the line in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, you know, says that, you know, we are endowed by the Creator. An endowment is an inheritance, right? We inherited. We didn't earn it. We didn't work for it. It was an endowment. It was given to us by our father, pass it on to their progeny. So it wasn't earned, right? It said, here, there's an endowment. It's a grant. Here, this is yours.
Right. And how could anybody, and if they didn't give it to us, why would they be able to take it away? It makes so much sense.
Exactly. So that's why it was worded that way. Every word in the Constitution and Bill of Rights was well crafted. So that way it was the debate was already made. So all this debate has already been settled. There's nothing new to debate. When people turn around and say, well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that word when you use any particular word? And I just tell them, Webster's. Look at Webster. What's what it means. What does it mean? Webster really define what it means. That's not like you have a choice to redefine what a word means. Well, horse can mean dog. Horse can mean pig. No, horse means horse.
Right.
Horse means horse.
Yeah,
you can self-identify as a chair, but that doesn't make you furniture. Okay. So.
It really is silly, though. Their arguments are very silly.
It's beyond even comprehension and belief. But this is Orwellian. This is why there's twisting words around, and we have to be well prepared and prepare our people for that. So the answer is there's a political response. The political response is to start taking out from office or removing from office any politician who makes who violates their oath of office, which is to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. Preserve means that you keep it as it is. That's preservation. You can't turn around and say, oh, I'm going to preserve the Constitution by changing it. I'm going to preserve the forest by cutting trees down. Oh, look, this is a forest preserve. Let me get a power saw and start chopping down trees so I can preserve the forest.
It doesn't work like that.
It's just lunacy behind these people. So that's why we have to. That's why we have to do what it is. Plus, look what happened with the outcome of the presidential election. Right, hours after the election. Right, this was organized anarchy. Right, which is an opposing word. Right, because it was organized lawlessness. Right, that people all over the place were burning things down, burning down cars, running rampant. Why? You lost an election. It wasn't like you lost it was a takeover. You had an election. The election was decided. That's what we do around here. Okay? If you don't like it, organize for the next one. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you got to do. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep vilifying the guy, making fun of the guy. In the meantime, while GDP is soaring through the roof from less than 1% to overcoming 4% in less than 15 months, unemployment is the lowest that it's ever been for Latinos and blacks and everyone else. Employment is high. 401k is high. The economy indicators are surging. Foreign policy is brilliant. Right, we're affecting business diplomacy and negotiations, which is just outstanding by outcome. Just look at it by the outcome. Anyone who's ever done a real estate deal or sold a house knows that you start your negotiation position from an extreme point, and then work backwards to get to the point, the position that you really wanted. Right, so you start with a high price, and then you get negotiated back to the price that you really want.
Really wanted.
Everybody knows that, except the mainstream media, the left, and some of these lunatic people. President Trump is exercising basic, simple real estate 101 negotiation tactics. Oh, this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. No, I want $1 million. $1 million. I won't give you more than 500. Oh, okay, you win. What the hell's wrong with these people?
Right.
Okay, you win. You got. I'll give it away for you for 500. Okay. All right. Look.
I gotta ask you something, Tony. It is a political question, but I really didn't get the media on their whole complaint over what happened with Trump had a meeting with Putin. Supposed to do, right? He's not. He's a peaceful sit down with a world leader. Like, we want our president to do that. Right? No, we want, Hillary to do it. I mean, what is wrong with people?
Yeah, so look.
Anyway, the big complaint is that there were a number of indictments of some Russians, at the federal level that came out on Friday. And for some reason, that was supposed to mean that Trump was supposed to take a knife and start stabbing to Putin. You scumbag! I mean,
You're scaring me, Raquel. You're scaring me.
I'm sorry.
Don't scare me like that, please. My heart can't take that. All right, look. Obviously, it was timed. It was the time.
It's so crazy what the liberals are doing. No, Putin, Trump, you're wrong. You should have nailed him to the wall. And you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done now.
Yeah, President Trump's doing the right thing. He's not paying any kind of mind to that. I'm not paying any attention to that. And so what you have to do is just apply some really just rationality to the irrational thing. So this is the rational thought. The rational thought is, quite simply, right? Oh, we published an intelligence report, and the published intelligence report said this, this, and this, and so therefore the president should do this. Stop the press. First of all, if it's a published intelligence report, it's declassified. And if it's declassified, it's no longer intelligence. Intelligence was removed from it. So therefore, it is just a report. So the president is acting on information or intelligence that he alone is privy to, not CNN. So how can CNN double guess the president saying, you should be doing this because we read the intelligence report and the intelligence report read this, and this is what we're reporting to the American people, but they're not telling the American people it's not an intelligence report anymore.
That's a great point.
So what's wrong with you?
It's declassified. It's nothing.
Declassified.
It just makes it sound important.
It's declassified. He is acting on information that he is privy to.
Right.
So he's saying, look, I can't tell you the information I'm acting on because it's classified. But CNN got the declassified stuff, and they can argue that stuff all day long, okay? But it's not accurate. It's just a report. So that's that. The other thing is that what do you want two thermonuclear power armed to the teeth nations to do? To be contentious with each other, or perhaps engage in humanitarian alliance, perhaps engage in business diplomacy, perhaps create business wealth for each of their populations through trade. And countries who are making each other rich, who are making each other wealthy, very rarely vaporize each other in a thermonuclear exchange that will obliterate the planet as we know it. So I don't know. Maybe give the guy a shot. I don't know. Let's give it a shot. See what happens. Okay. So
I think it's great. I think Trump is awesome.
So I think that President Trump and President Putin are contenders for the Nobel Peace Prize, because easing tensions between nuclear powers and nuclear rivals who are in positions where they can tripwire into war. Remember, wars are tripwired into. No one says, okay, next Thursday, 2 o'clock, we'll have a war. No, wars are tripwired into. Wars are blundered into, right? Wars are the failure of diplomacy, right? So when you have diplomacy between nations, and as long as they're talking, they're not warring. When diplomacy breaks down, there's no longer any kind of diplomacy remaining between them. The only thing that's left is war. So the president is engaging in diplomacy. What is he supposed to be engaging in? Okay, so they've lost their minds. They've completely lost their minds. The other thing is as I said, when you have dynamics change between countries. So let's take a look at this. All right, if you look on a map and look at Russia, right? Russia, as we know it, extends from Eastern Europe around the whole planet, right, to across the Bering Strait, to across the street from Alaska. Okay, yeah. All right. So I don't know, if Russia was walking down the street and the United States was walking down the street, why would they turn around and want to pick a fight with each other? All right. So who would?
And the Democrats are always like talking about Trump being a warmonger. When Trump's a war, the Republicans are warmongers. They're always repeating that line. And this is what's killing me. This is what has me crazy. Is because right now they're out there in the mainstream saying, "Go to war with Putin. Go stab him. Go." You know, and you're like, "What are you talking about?" You know, they're reaching they had a diplomacy. They're reaching diplomacy. I mean, they're doing exactly what they should be doing.
They're having a meltdown, Raquel, because the reason why they're having the meltdown is because they cannot allow the president. See, there's a difference between politics and policy. So the people that you're talking about and that you may engage, right, who are criticizing the president. All right, they're criticizing the president over politics, but you cannot, if you notice, they cannot engage in a conversation with you about policy. They cannot turn around and say that and argue with you that unemployment among Blacks and Latinos should be high, right? They can't have that argument with you. No, we want high unemployment among Blacks and Latinos. No, it's low now. So what are you going to say? Well, yeah, that's it, but it wasn't Trump's doing. Listen, do you want low unemployment among Blacks and Latinos, or you don't? Right? You do, right? Was there high unemployment among Blacks and Latinos on the 8 years of Obama and 8 years of Bush and 8 years of Clinton? Yes, they were. Now it's low. So what do you want? So, oh, but I don't like the way he dresses and talks to women and does. Okay, fine. That's something else. That has nothing to do. Don't invite him over for dinner, and don't introduce him to your daughter. Okay. I
don't think he is. He don't bother me one bit.
What I'm saying is that fine, then don't invite him over to your house for dinner.
Yeah.
Okay. And if he invites you to the White House, don't go.
Say no.
Okay. So then you have the freedom to do that, right?
I want to go to the White House. I want to meet Donald Trump in person so bad.
Otherwise, if you want your kid to have a job, and if you want your kid to work, and you want your kid to do well, okay, then you agree with that policy. So therefore, you cannot find an argument against a policy. You cannot find the argument to say that he should not speak to Kim Il-sung in North Korea, that he should not engage him to try and repatriate the bodies and remains of our American POWs and soldiers who died there, and return them to have an honor guard funeral. All right, so he should not do that. Of course he should do that, but to do that, you have to engage in negotiation, okay? Now, since they've been negotiating, there hasn't been any assertive or violent or assaultive moves by North Korea, launching missiles across Japan, launching missiles at Hawaii, threatening the South, or doing any such things, has there?
No.
So we have a tangible outcome. These things take time. They have to be approached step by step in diplomatic timeframes. It's not instant cocoa. Just add milk, stir, and you got it. It doesn't work like that.
That's true.
The difference between the Russians and the United States is a very complex relationship, is a very complex paradigm. So what we have here is you have a president in Russia now who now in a country, in a population, has now discovered capitalism. They've now discovered, holy moly, we are making money. Holy cow, I can have 2 cars, 3 cars, a vacation home, a place on the beach, and you mean I can get on a plane and go anywhere and come back and not go to jail? Well,
Right.
Columbus discovered America. Right? So these are people who are just figuring this stuff out. All right. So these are not people who are going to be easily returned back to a communist Marxist state. Okay. They are the example. They provided the example to the world, to the capitalist world, that communism, Marxism, socialism doesn't work, and that capitalism is how to create wealth and to pass it on to the next generation. You can actually create wealth and pass it on.
Right.
And pass it on to succeeding generations down. This is the idea of what capitalism does. It's the freewheeling state of negotiation. And what we have here is that the socialists or the left, they want to promote equal outcomes, whereas we only promise equal opportunity. You both start at the same starting line. Whoever finishes the race, that's up to your own individual talent. Okay, right. and that depends on that. Okay, we all want to be NBA stars. We all want to be rock stars. Okay, but I can't sing and I can't shoot a basketball. Okay, so I have to do
both.
See, so I have to use my talents to do what I can do in particular to be successful, and others can do what they do. So I mean,
the American way. Do you really think that Putin is because of the capitalism definitely being lucrative? So it is a means to make money, right, for his country to make money. So I could see him saying, Christopher discovered America. Let's go there. I like that. I really never thought of it that way. Do you think, in your expertise, Tony, that Putin really is can be persuaded to move into a more capitalist, freedom-based government?
Well, that's exactly what you have. Look, nations engage, the wealth of nations, Adam Smith, right, engage in trade, right, by trading the natural resources or the competition of natural resources, right? Because we need natural resources to create goods and provide services, right? So now, when Russia looks over at the American market, Americans should be looking over at the Russian market. Don't you think it would be a good idea if we made blue jeans, and Russian women love American blue jeans, that we make enough blue jeans that every woman in Russia across that whole entire landmass will be wearing blue jeans with my name patched across their butt?
I buy a pair. I love blue jeans. I wear blue jeans all the time.
I'm just saying, right? So it's a market, in other words, right? It's a market. Right. So if they're making money from us and we're making money from them, all right, and the blue jeans store guy is making money by selling American blue jeans, you think he's going to vote to turn around and drop bombs on America and he's making a ton of money with American blue jeans? Don't you dare. I'm making a ton of money over here.
Right.
You kidding? Leave them people alone. And the same thing over here. But the thing is that there's always been a policy of creating the boogeyman. So when we have $1 trillion budget, right, to justify that, there has to be a boogeyman. So if we demystify and we de-vilify and don't have a boogeyman over in Russia, right? Then how do you justify the defense budget? Well, I justify politically by a peace dividend. The money that you're not spending and creating better missiles and better this and pumping into NATO, right? It would take away the need for a NATO, right? So that's why the people in NATO were saying, well, look, we got a free ride over here. We took the United States for suckers. They're picking up the bill on everything. We don't even have a defense budget. We're pocketing that money, right? And this really is not the kind of threat that it is. So all we got to do is keep instigating a threat. So the point I started to make, Raquel, was that you have to, if you were an intel analyst, analyze it, who benefits? So who would benefit by instigating a war, or instigating contention between two competing superpowers that can obliterate the planet, right? So those who turn around and say, oh, we have the budget to keep them at bay and create a deterrence and do those things, so keep the money from the poor American taxpayer pouring into our coffers. But if you turn around and say, hey, we're friends now, right? Now you took away that contention, who gets that money? So, oh my God, we need the boogeyman. You understand? Right. So you have to look at it, you have to ask the question of like, who benefits? And when you start breaking down who benefits, then it starts to make sense. Then it starts to make sense.
So it actually, in your opinion, benefit the bigger organizations collecting money and not really following like NATO? Is there even a use for them?
Well, look what happened. President Trump went over there. He said, you know, guys, I've been looking in the books, and you know, you owe me some money. Let me look. Oh, Germany, you're making good money. Your GDP is way up there, and you owe me, like $800 billion. Here's a pen. Take out I'll give you the pen. Here's your checkbook. Wait a minute. Oh my God, he's insulting our allies. It's not an insult to turn around and say, hey, you owe me a few dollars here. You know, right. I'm picking up the tab. You're eating well, right? Right. I'm picking up the tab. Why don't you buy me a hamburger once in a while? Okay. See? And now, did the man leave with a check? Oh, yes, he did. Yes, he did. He went over to Europe and he left with a check because the EU said, all right. Nobody asked. I didn't get the bill. You didn't send me an invoice. I'll send it down to collections. All right? Send me an invoice. We'll write you a check.
That is a mastermind. That is a mastermind, Trump.
Yeah, man.
Because this is what he does.
What the hell? He did leave with a check, though.
That is great. Like, I didn't even know that because I'm following the mainstream and they're not telling me those facts, right? It's incredible. It's so incredible.
My only response is, did the man leave? Did the president of the United States leave with a check made out to the United States Treasury?
And he did.
Yeah, he did. And that's it.
That's great. Okay, I have another question for you regarding Trump particularly. So you know, there's this kind of battle going back and forth. Some people, some Americans, you know, try to say there's this deep state. Some people call them the deep state.
Yeah, that's easy.
Or like the bankers and the major players, the major political players, the money people, and they all kind of collude together to sort of make this a one world nation instead of having nations like ours.
Globalism. Raquel, the word you want to use is globalism. Okay.
Globalism.
Globalist. Okay.
Now, some people say that Trump is part of the globalism.
No, that's not true.
And some people say he's not. So I want to know what you think.
No. There's no money in it. There's no money in globalism. All right? So no, okay. Trump is not a globalist, and that's why he won, and that's why the globalists are losing their minds. So Trump is an Americanist. He's for Americanism. All right.
I think so too.
He was elected as he has all the markings and makings of a populist. I wrote an article about that a long time ago when he first came on the scene, and I described him as I was the first one to identify him as a populist. When people were trying to figure out, oh, he's not a Republican, he's not a Democrat. No, he broke that shell. He broke that shell. He's beyond the party planks. He is populist, and he was elected as a populist. That's why he won in the landslide. 306 electoral votes is a landslide. Okay, so that's the way that works. The other thing is that globalism means that there's a political faction out there. In a nutshell, I'll just break it in a nutshell. So there's a political faction out there, a school of thought, who believe that it's inevitable that the world will morph into a one world government, whereas the means of production, natural resources, defense, culture, and even religion will morph into one world control. So first, the world is coagulating into blocks. So there's the European bloc, trading bloc, there's the Asian trading bloc, and the North American or trading bloc. So now that we're breaking down in tribes, so you have the European Union, you have the Asian Pacific Rim, right, coagulating into one group, and then they were trying to promote would be the North American Trade Union, which they were trying to do through treaty, through that TAF, PPT, NAFTA, etc. All right. So if those groups become trading groups, they become dependent and rely on each other, so they have to be micromanaged, right? And then it will move towards a government that has to control it, right? And then all of those blocks are competing for the natural resources that remain in the continent of Africa. So, and that's why Africa is taking the beating that it's taken. So Africa has natural resources and minerals and oil, bauxite, and everything else like this. Okay, so if you notice that the areas around the world where we have perpetual warfare, perpetual contentions, are areas that are also high and rich in natural resources. So Afghanistan is not about guys living in caves and having carnal knowledge of goats. It's because there's high minerals there, okay, that are used for computers, that are used, gas pipelines, and I forgot the mineral that they use in the computers. That's with an M. But anyway, so a lot of those other things are going like that. And so therefore, futurists are looking to the future and saying that once we control all of these minerals and all of these natural resources, that will be who will have the political and military power of projection. Trump comes along and screwed up that whole plan. That whole plan just got screwed up.
I don't think he's for that.
No, he's not for that whatsoever. Then he turns around, he finds a trading partner or potential trading partner in Russia, was also rich in natural resources, who is not part of that world order. So the last thing the globalists need was to have two strong, independent-minded rivals, okay, seeing eye to eye and create an alliance which would obliterate their, and what world order means is that what we're in now, right? That the United States is the leader of the world. We're the leader of the world in production and resources and money, military, culture, everything else like that. So that's the order of the world. The order of the world changed from World War I, right? During World War I, the Ottoman Empire, the Muslims controlled all of this Ottoman area. That was the world order. They lost, the world order shifted and changed. World War II came along, and Germany tried to turn around and dominate all of Europe and dominate that area. They lost. And so the world order changed. Then it changed into a bilateral war. We had the Soviet Union bloc on one side, and you had America and Europe and NATO on the other, right? Then the Soviet Union fell, which only now left the United States and its European allies as the unipolar power, the one world power, all right? And so then Obama came along and said, well, let's fracture that and create different pockets to turn around and bring down the United States power, right? So that way that will raise up the other powers to help create that globalist paradigm, that globalist organization. That's right. What Obama was.
Kind of everyone on the same standing.
Everyone, right?
Pulling the resources into one government.
Yeah, world. Obama said it, right? He said he wanted to fundamentally change the United States of America, right? He said it. He was openly a globalist. Yeah, then President Trump comes along and says, no, we're not doing that no more. So that deep state is just an acronym, or not an acronym, just a euphemism for those who are the functionaries, who are the appointees and the people who still function in the levers of government and policy makers, who are in the group called the Senior Executive Service. So the senior executive guys are the guys who write policy. They're the ones who write up all of the gather the intelligence or write up the policy position papers and such. And it gets funneled up to the executive branch, and the president makes his decisions based on what they write and what they say. So therefore, they're really being guided by the lower functionaries of government within the state. That's the basement, down in the basement, the deep state. The guys who are working in the basements of the Pentagon, the basement of the CIA, the basements of these institutions. I like to tell when people turn around and say, oh, you're going against our country. No, we're not. I took an oath to protect the Constitution, not the institution. There's a difference between the institution, Raquel, and the Constitution. And the Constitution wins out all the time. We can do away with the institution in a minute. That's not the country. FBI is not the country. You're going to tell me that the President of the United States, who now is uncovered, that a soft coup was being plotted for his overthrow by the top people of the FBI in the former administration, the top people of the CIA.
You're fired!
and that he should trust their work product?
Heck no. Yeah, no.
That would be foolish.
Another
Yeah, that would be foolish. That would be absolutely foolish. Some people say, oh, he's insulting our intelligence community.
Oh, please.
Clapper, Brennan, McCabe, Strauss, Comey, that's not the intelligence community.
He can fire them. The president, they work at his pleasure.
That's right. They're part of the executive branch. And
yes.
Therefore, he just like the show, he can hire and fire them at will. And
Maybe God, they're traitors.
That's kind of that. Well,
that doesn't mean that we're against our country. That doesn't mean that we call out the bad guys. Look, if they're lying, they're cheating, and they're begging to get their way, oh yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and blindly support them.
Yeah. Foreign policy, according to the Constitution, clothes the president exclusively in immense power. The president is clothed in immense power to formulate foreign policy. Okay. So it's the president's agenda, the president's foreign policy, and he has around him the policymakers and such who are in a line with achieving those policy goals. So therefore, if there's somebody who is from the former administration who doesn't agree with those policy goals, that they've been working for 8 years, 16 years, 20 years for another policy goal, they don't need to be in that job anymore, right? So then they're in a position to mislead and misguide the president. They can feed the president false intelligence. So when the president turns around and meets with the president of Russia, and he says, look, I got intel guys too. You want to see what we come up with? And he has a 2-hour private meeting with him. And then the president of Russia turns around and he looks left and he looks right and he looks up, see nobody's looking. And he reaches in his pocket and he takes out his top secret Russian intelligence stuff, right? And he says, look, I'm gonna show you what we got. And then he opens up what he's got. And then you see, Hillary Clinton was taking all kinds of cash. Look, Hillary, Obama, here's the bank accounts.
It's so blatant. Yeah.
Stuff. Hey,
she took like $400 million. It's reported.
Yeah. Hey, Don, you want a copy of this? I got a copy for you. Here, keep it. From me to you. Do whatever you want with it. Because, we got it like that. All right? So then he says, and you know who helped her? You know who helped her do it? There was a guy colluding in there who was the ambassador to Russia. Oh, yeah, we got all kind of stuff on this guy. We got all kind of stuff on this guy.
Right.
And if you want, we could talk to him. You could talk to him, whatever. Oh, no, you can't turn over the FBI guy to the Russians. You can't have to. Stop it. Every embassy, and the embassy in Moscow has what they call a legal FBI attaché. Okay?
Okay.
Because if the Russians are investigating an American who committed a crime, then they call up the embassy and they say, send over your FBI attaché over here to talk to our detectives because we got a guy who's been, raping, killing, doing crimes here in Russia or high political crimes.
Right. So
we have a treaty for that. And if there's a guy in the United States who's money laundering and doing stuff like that and taking Russian money and committing crimes in Russia, right? Then they call up the embassy, and the Russian embassy calls up the FBI and says, hey, our investigator attaché needs to come over to the FBI because we're looking for a guy who's been committing some crimes. And then reciprocation, right?
Right.
So if somebody commits a crime in the United States, who's American, goes hide in Russia, we can go to the Russians and say, hey, help us track this guy down. And the same thing, if there's a guy who fled Russia and is hiding in the United States, then they go to the Americans and say, hey, help us track this guy down.
Right.
This is a treaty that's been going on for decades. So when they turn around and say, oh, the president's a traitor. No, it's not. We got a treaty for that.
Right, of course.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you people?
It wouldn't be a traitor anyway. It's just justice is a search for truth. It's not about covering up for your colleagues.
No one's committing the guy of any crime. They say he want to help us in this investigation. So
right.
What's the problem? You know, we want to depose him. We want to have a deposition. So you see, when Mueller turns around and says that we're going to indict spies for spying because that's what spies do. It's in their job description. I want to be a spy. Well, what does a spy do? Well, I think he spies. You're hired. You are hired. You're brilliant.
Right.
Okay. So therefore, I mean, it's just kind of really ludicrous, isn't it?
It really is. That's what I'm getting at. It's so frustrating.
When they indict a ham sandwich and a bunch of guys who were spying, right? And then come to find out that we didn't hack the computer. If you're going to put top secrets on Google and Yahoo and American Online unsecured servers, we didn't steal it. You gave it to us. And you didn't only give it to us, you gave it to everybody else out there whose job is to turn around and spy on you. Yeah. And then it comes find out that you had the Aswan Pakistani brothers working in the DNC who had those kind of access to that kind of information. And then when all of a sudden they found out that that information was being put out, those two guys up and disappeared and absconded with what? We don't know what the hell they are about now, right?
Oh, boy.
All right. So so maybe there's a little bit more deeper to that. So henceforth, you got to turn around. And how does a magician make an elephant disappear from the room, right? By distraction and diversion, right? So they created distraction, diversion over here and make the elephant disappear like this. So these are all these moving parts. And what President Trump has done effectively is to expose that term deep state, which are those unelected people who are exercising and pushing on an agenda and a policy for their own benefit and are embedded within the government and feeding the decision makers, all right, who are making policy, because they're the ones who are formulating policy for them. Now you can't have a president over here that says, no, I formulate policy from up here and you guys craft it up down there, what I say. I'm not forming policy what you telling me to formulate policy at. And that's where they're all having this freak out, this meltdown that we're watching.
I see. Yeah, he has no choice. He has no choice but to do that. Otherwise, how can he be effective? Because he's got conflict right within his own executive branch.
They have a globalist policy, and he has an America First policy.
Yeah.
So those two policies are in conflict with each other. So he says, look, this is the litmus test. If it doesn't benefit the American people, and if it doesn't make us money, I'm not doing it. Okay? So that's it. We're in business to make money, right? So now he's introducing a concept that has been foreign to every president before him, which was they were in business to lose money. This guy's saying, no. We're the business of business, and we're going to make money.
You do a good Trump impression. I want to ask you one more question, and then we're going to close it up because we got to close it up really soon. But I do want you to I want you to give me your expert opinion. We both know that Hillary has done some criminal actions, particularly when it comes down to these emails and classified information that was exposed, and then not revealing the stuff, not producing the documents. So many different problems here with Hillary Clinton and what she has done criminally. I want to know what you think about her ever being charged. Do you think our government is going to hold Hillary Clinton accountable to her criminal actions?
Yes.
That's great. What makes you think that?
President Trump. He said he was going to do it. And so far, He's done everything. And he said he was going to. And what he's doing now is that now the information, the facts are coming out and dripping out like a Chinese water torture. And it's coming out so overwhelmingly that it's going to be indefensible. So only two things are going to happen. Hillary is going to have a stroke and be admitted to the ICU and go into a coma, or she will be indicted.
Gotcha.
She will be indicted. And the reason why we know she would be indicted, because director of the FBI, Comey, came out and told us, says, look, we got all of this information on her, okay, but I don't see where I've made the decision that there isn't a prosecutor who can indict it. Now, we can get a prosecutor to indict a ham sandwich, but we can't get a prosecutor to indict a powerful political gangster, all right, who has dirt and fingers on everybody, because those monies that Hillary got, what she did with that money was corrupt others. So others got paid off of that corrupt money that she has. So they're in on it too. So now to protect themselves, if she goes down, they go down.
Right.
And that's why we're watching the panic ensue that we're watching. So the best barometer of what that President Trump is doing the right thing is by how hard the media melts down. The more they melt down, the better he's doing.
Well, he's doing great.
Then by that barometer, he's doing amazing.
Well, you know what? That's the best news I've heard like all week. So I'm glad to hear that you're positive about getting you know, an arrest here, you know, some accountability with Hillary Clinton, because it's something that I really, you know, would like to see, because I think it brings justice back to our minds, right? So we don't want to be in a position where we can commit a crime and boom, we're going to jail. Okay, no one's giving you any special treatment, but the politicians for some reason don't have the same standard. You know, they get away with the crimes. We really can't have that. If we want to call ourselves a free country, America, we certainly cannot have a situation where our politicians operate above the law. It's un-American. So I'm really glad that we ended with that, and I'm so happy that you're hopeful about Trump and her actually being held accountable. It's great news. I'm sorry that we did get off topic on the 2A topic, but these are very interesting. It was a very interesting conversation with you, Tony, and I always learn something when I talk to you because you're the best. And I want you to have a last word, and I want you to tell the viewers where they can find you, where your website is, your Facebook page, stuff like that.
Yeah, screenshot that.
Yeah. AMI Global Security. That's an international consulting.
914-329-0338.
Thank you. And that's your whole business. So you have your gun boutique, you have your security business, you have everything wrapped up into.
Right, we're international security consultants, FFLs, you know, gun dealers, arms dealers, and protection specialists.
Okay, perfect. So you want to have the last word on Second Amendment?
Well, the thing is that without the Second Amendment, the rest of them don't matter. So they're all inextricably intertwined, and you cannot remove one without the other. So any politician who tries to sell you that it's not needed or should be taken away or watered down, okay, does not deserve to hold office. It's in violation of his oath, and so therefore, if you cannot keep your oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, you did not deserve to be entrusted with the title of honorable or to hold office. Take them out.
Yeah, that's a very good threshold. So if they're not following the Constitution, whether they're a Dem or a Repub, it doesn't matter. Just boom. God. And Second Amendment is part of that. So yeah, that's very, very good advice. Thank you so much, Tony. Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show. I'll definitely have you back on because I'd love to follow your career and what you're doing.
Thanks, Raquel.
Thanks so much. Always wave. You have to wave too.
All right.
Bye, Tony. Be good. Thank you. Thanks for coming on.
You later.